Everyone mocked my friend for being a janitor, until he started wiping the floor with them. Theo had been our star quarterback, the guy everyone thought would go pro. Until one day, he twisted his ankle and cost the school a championship. Everyone treated him like a ghost after that. So when he showed up at our reunion, I instantly knew this was going to be rough. His former teammates called him over to their table and grinned. "So Theo, what are you up to these days?" "I work for the government," Theo said simply. "Like what, paperwork? DMV?" "No, I handle hazards like when things get messy," he explained. The whole group burst out laughing. "So you're a janitor? Theo the janitor? The loser gets a loser job. It really suits you." Luis, one of his old friends, shook his head with a disgusted look. "From throwing touchdowns to cleaning toilets. Man, you really crashed and burned." "Jesus, Theo. What happened?" But Theo didn't seem bothered. "I like what I do," he said calmly. That only made them want to tease him more. Luis knocked over a glass full of red wine during dinner and immediately called across the ballroom. "Yo, janitor! I've got a job for you!" They made Theo get on his knees to clean it while 3 different people filmed it. "At least you're good at something now," Luis laughed. Then they called over Theo's ex-girlfriend Haley, who was once our head cheerleader. She walked over in designer everything, her surgeon husband trailing behind her. She stepped on Theo's hand as he cleaned the wine off the floor. "I can't believe I used to date you. I mean, this is just so embarrassing. Thank goodness I married a surgeon instead." I couldn't sit back and watch anymore. I walked over and grabbed Theo's arm, pulling him up from the floor. "How cute, getting help from the class nerd," Luis mocked. I glared at him. "I'm a lawyer now, so if I were you, I'd watch it." "Oh, scary, and kinda hot," he teased with a smirk. Theo got between us and stood up, towering over Luis, who flinched back. I tugged on Theo's sleeve and pulled him away from the group. "I know we're not close, but you don't have to take their BS. It's been 10 years and they still haven't moved on from that football game. And being a janitor is a good job. Any job is a good job," I vented. He smiled softly and looked at me with strangely calm eyes. "It's fine, really." But 20 minutes later, during the award ceremony, Luis drunkenly stumbled onto the stage and grabbed the microphone. "We have a special award tonight. Theo, come up here." I grabbed his arm. "Don't go. They're going to humiliate you." He patted my hand gently. "I need to go up there." "Better view of the room," he said, his eyes scanning all the exits. Luis grinned and handed Theo an actual plunger from the janitor's closet, presenting it like a trophy. The entire room laughed. That's when the doors exploded open. 7 masked men with automatic weapons stormed in. Everyone instantly hit the floor, screaming and begging for mercy. Except Theo. He crouched down on the stage, swiftly hiding behind one of the curtains as he whispered into his watch. He snuck out through the back door of the stage while the men rounded us up and began taking all of our purses, wallets, watches, and started planting what looked like bombs on a few of the men. Just as they got to me, Theo burst back inside wearing full tactical gear. The window shattered as more men in black rappelled in. "Chief, we've got 7 hostiles, 40 civilians." Theo took complete command, barking orders in military precision. He neutralized 3 of the men alone. And it was nothing like the movies. It was precise, almost boring with how efficiently he detained them. When the smoke cleared, Theo stood in the middle of 7 zip-tied terrorists. His commander walked in. "Outstanding work as always, Lieutenant Colonel." Everyone stared at him, awestruck. You said you cleaned things," Luis shouted. "I clean up terrorist cells and international threats. The hazardous materials I handle are weapons of mass destruction. You're the ones who assumed I meant toilets." He picked up the plunger and handed it to Haley, who stared at him with an embarrassed expression. "Keep this. Maybe it'll remind you of what you missed out on." His unit started escorting him toward the roof access. Before leaving, he walked over to check on me. "You let them humiliate you. You knew something was going to happen?" He nodded. "Had intel about a possible threat. Couldn't warn anyone without blowing my cover." The humiliation was just a small price to pay to keep everyone alive. He picked up a fallen flower and placed it in my hair gently. "Especially you. I have to go, but I'll keep in touch if you don't mind." "Not so fast. I think you're forgetting one thing." Luis grinned as he stood up, a bomb strapped to his chest. His hand moves to his chest and pulls up his shirt. Everyone in the room freezes. Wires snake across his torso in messy loops. A phone sits taped right at the center. Blocks of something gray and dense wrap around his sides with more duct tape holding everything together. I watch Theo's whole body change in maybe half a second. His shoulders square, his feet shift into a wider stance. His eyes lock onto Louise with total focus. The casual guy who took all the insults just vanishes. What stands there now looks military and dangerous. The room goes completely quiet. Someone near me starts crying but cuts it off fast. Theo lifts one hand up flat like a stop sign. His voice comes out different from before. Calm but hard. Commanding in a way that makes everyone listen. He tells us all to stay still. Don't move. Don't talk. His team responds instantly. They spread out around the edges of the room. Their weapons stay ready but pointed down. Every single one of them watches Louise. Theo keeps staring at him without blinking. I finally get what he meant about needing a better view of the room. He knew something bad might happen. He positioned himself exactly where he needed to be. Theo speaks quietly into his watch. I can barely hear him, but I catch some words. EOD, local PD, device configuration, room dimensions. He rattles off details about what he sees on Louise's chest, how the wires connect, where the phone sits, how far away the crowd is sitting. His voice stays steady the whole time, like he's ordering coffee instead of calling for a bomb squad. He moves slowly toward Louise. Not close. Maybe 15 feet away. He positions himself right between Louise and where most of us are sitting, creating a barrier with his own body. The tactical team adjusts their positions to match his movements. Everything happens smooth and coordinated, like they've practiced this 100 times. Theo's eyes find mine across the room. That same steady voice asks me to help. Keep people calm. Pass along information. Give me something specific to do. The request cuts straight through the panic trying to climb up my throat. I nod. My hands shake, but I turn to the people near me. I tell them quietly to stay in their seats. Breathe slow. Don't make sudden movements. Focusing on the task helps. Gives me something to do besides be scared. From where I'm sitting, I can see Louise more clearly now. The wires run from the phone down to the gray blocks. Everything connects in a way that looks deliberate. Planned. The phone screen glows faintly. Louise is sweating hard. Drops run down his face. His hand hovers near the phone, shaking badly. The cocky grin from earlier is completely gone. What's left looks like fear mixed with something desperate, like he wants out but doesn't know how to get there. His eyes dart around the room, landing on faces, on exits, on Theo. He looks trapped. Theo starts talking to people furthest from the stage. His team moves in to help. They guide small groups toward the side exits, 5 people at a time, moving slow and quiet. I watch our former classmates file out. Some I haven't seen in 10 years. Others I knew pretty well back in the school. Relief hits me seeing them get to safety, but guilt comes right behind it. I'm still here, still in danger, still close enough to whatever might happen. The evacuation continues in careful waves. Theo's team shepherds people out with hand signals and whispered directions. Nobody panics, nobody runs. The training shows in how smoothly it all moves. More people leave. The ballroom empties bit by bit. I stay put because Theo asked me to help keep the remaining people calm, so I stay. A new group arrives through the main doors. 3 people in full tactical gear, heavy cases in their hands. The lead guy is compact and moves with total confidence. Theo greets him as Rakesh. They talk fast and quiet. Theo points at the vest, at Louise, at the room layout. Rakesh nods along, takes it all in. Then he turns to address everyone still in the room. His voice carries authority. He asks us to move back another 20 feet. Maintain complete silence while he works. Don't make any sounds. Don't move around. Just stay still and quiet. People shift backward carefully. Chairs scrape softly against the floor. We all resettle further from the stage. Rakesh sets down his case and opens it. Tools I don't recognize fill the inside. He pulls out a camera. Special looking. Not like a regular phone camera. He approaches Louise slowly. Gets to about 10 feet away. Then he just stands there, looking. Not touching anything. Not moving closer. Just studying the vest from every angle. Minutes drag by. He circles slowly. Takes photos from different positions. The camera clicks quietly. Louise stands frozen on the stage. His breathing comes fast and shallow. Sweat soaks through his shirt. Rakesh finally walks back to where Theo stands. They talk in voices too low for me to hear clearly. But I catch 2 words that make my stomach drop. Dead man switch. Anti-tamper. I know enough from TV shows to understand what those mean. This isn't simple. This is complicated and dangerous. If Louise lets go, it goes off. If someone tries to remove it wrong, it goes off. My hands grip the chair arms hard. Theo shifts his approach. His voice changes again. Softer now. More conversational. He starts talking to Louise about their old football games. Asks him about life after high school. What he's been doing for 10 years. Where he ended up. Louise doesn't answer at first. Just stands there shaking. But Theo keeps talking. Patient. Not pushing. Just asking casual questions like they're catching up at a coffee shop instead of a bomb situation. Slowly, Louise starts responding. His voice comes out shaky and broken. He talks about money problems, bad bets, gambling debts that kept growing, people he owed who wouldn't accept excuses, who started making threats. His words tumble out faster as he keeps talking, the pressure building, the fear growing, not knowing what to do. Then tears start running down his face. His whole body shakes. He admits someone approached him about wearing the vest. They promised it would clear all his debts. Said nobody would actually get hurt. Just make a statement at the reunion. Scare people. That's all. Just scare them and everything would be okay. His voice cracks. He sounds lost, confused about how he ended up here. The confession hits me weird. I'm still angry about how cruel he was earlier. How he humiliated Theo, made him kneel and clean, called him a loser. But hearing him now, seeing how trapped he looks, how scared, I feel this unwilling sympathy creeping in. He made terrible choices, but someone used his desperation against him, manipulated him into this. The situation feels more complicated than I want it to be. Rakesh walks back to his equipment case and pulls out something that looks like a small black box with an antenna. He holds it up so everyone can see. His voice carries across the room as he explains the plan to use this specialized tool to disrupt the phone trigger from a distance. The device will send out a signal that should fry the phone's circuits without setting anything off, but everyone needs to move even further back, at least another 30 feet. He points to the far wall near the entrance. That's where people need to go, right now. Theo starts directing the evacuation immediately. His team guides small groups toward the back wall. People move carefully, quietly. Nobody wants to make sudden sounds or movements. The ballroom empties out in sections. First the people closest to the exits, then those in the middle rows. I stay where I am because I'm still helping coordinate, pointing people toward the safest routes, making sure nobody panics or rushes. Theo catches my eye and nods. He wants me to stay. I'm useful here. The room feels huge and empty now with most people pressed against the far wall. Just Theo standing near the stage, Rakesh and his 2 team members setting up equipment, and me off to the side still close enough to see everything. My heart pounds hard in my chest, but I keep my breathing steady. Rakesh positions the disruption device on a stand, points it directly at the phone taped to the vest. His teammates crouch behind a thick equipment case for cover. Theo stays standing but shifts his weight, ready to move fast if needed. Rakesh looks at everyone remaining, asks if we're ready. Theo confirms. I nod even though nobody asked me directly. Rakesh flips a switch on the device. For 3 seconds, nothing happens. Then a sharp crack splits the air like a gunshot. Everyone jumps. My hands fly up to cover my ears. The phone on the vest explodes into pieces. Plastic and glass scatter across the stage floor. Smoke rises from where the phone used to be. For one beautiful moment, I feel relief flood through my whole body. It worked. The trigger is gone. But then Rakesh holds up one hand. The universal signal for wait. Stop. Don't celebrate yet. He moves closer to the stage, studies the vest again, gets down on one knee to look at it from a different angle. My relief drains away as fast as it came. Something's wrong. Theo sees it too. His body tenses again. Rakesh signals his team over. They have a quiet conversation I can't hear. Then Rakesh points at something on the vest, under one of the panels. His teammate leans in close, nods, pulls out a different tool. My stomach drops because I know what this means. There's something else. Another trigger we didn't see before. Rakesh stands up and addresses the room again. He found a secondary trigger, a pressure-sensitive switch hidden under one of the vest panels. If the weight distribution changes even slightly, it will go off. The news hits everyone like a physical blow. People who were starting to relax tense up again. Someone near the back wall makes a scared sound. I feel my own fear come rushing back. Worse than before because we thought we were almost done. Almost safe. Now we're back to the beginning. Maybe worse than the beginning because this trigger sounds even more dangerous. I force myself to take a slow breath, then another. My legal training kicks in. Stay calm. Project confidence even when you don't feel it. People near me are looking scared. Really scared. One woman starts crying quietly. I move closer to her. Put my hand on her shoulder. Tell her in the steadiest voice I can manage that the experts know what they're doing. We just need to stay quiet and let them work. She nods but keeps crying. I understand. I want to cry too. But I can't. Not right now. Not when people need someone to seem like they have it together. Theo hasn't moved from his position near the stage. He's talking to Louise again. His voice is so calm it's almost weird. Like they're having a normal conversation instead of dealing with a bomb. He tells Louise to stay absolutely still. Don't shift weight. Don't move arms or legs. Just breathe slowly and listen. Rakesh joins them. Starts coaching Louise through tiny movements. Lift your left arm 1 inch. Stop. Hold it there. Now move your right shoulder back just a fraction. Stop. The process is agonizingly slow. Every small movement takes minutes of preparation. Discussion between Rakesh and his team. Careful instructions to Louise. Then the movement itself. Then everyone freezes and waits to see if anything happens. I watch from my position near the remaining civilians. My job now is to whisper what's happening. Explain why this is taking so long. Why they can't just rip the vest off. Why every movement has to be this careful and precise. People listen. Some nod. Others just stare at the stage with wide eyes. Time stretches out weird. Every minute feels like an hour. My legs start to ache from standing so still. My neck hurts from tension. But I don't move. Nobody moves except Rakesh and his team working on the vest. And Louise following their instructions with shaking hands. Theo keeps talking the whole time. Asking Louise questions about football. About high school. Random stuff that seems pointless, but I realize he's trying to keep Louise focused. Keep his mind busy so he doesn't panic. Smart. After what feels like hours but is probably 30 minutes, Rakesh makes a final adjustment. He holds up a small tool. Does something I can't see clearly. Then he steps back. Signals his team. Together, they lift the vest carefully off of the body. Louise stands frozen as they remove it. The moment the vest is completely off and sealed in a special bag, Louise collapses. His knees just give out. He falls forward onto the stage, sobbing. Big, gasping sobs that echo through the quiet ballroom. Theo's team moves in immediately. They pull Louise's arms behind his back. Snap handcuffs on. Read him his rights in flat professional voices. The contrast is jarring. One second, he's a scared guy who almost died. The next, he's a criminal being arrested. Both things are true, I guess. The ballroom transforms fast after that. Yellow tape goes up, marking off sections. Little numbered markers get placed on the floor. People in official jackets start taking photos, measuring things, writing notes. A detective arrives. Tall guy with gray hair and a tired face. Someone says his name is Tyrone Maddox. He starts organizing witness statements, sets up a table near the entrance, calls people over one by one. When it's my turn, I sit down across from him. He has kind eyes despite looking exhausted, asks me to describe what I saw, what I heard. I use my legal training, give precise details, stick to facts. Don't speculate about things I didn't directly observe. He writes everything down, asks follow-up questions, thanks me for being so clear. I feel oddly proud of myself for giving a good statement, even though that's a weird thing to feel proud about right now. Theo disappears while I'm giving my statement. I look around for him but don't see him anywhere. Then I spot a door near the stage standing open. Through it, I catch glimpses of people in tactical gear, official-looking types in suits. I see Theo's back. He's talking to his commander. Their body language looks tense. The commander is gesturing with his hands. Theo stands very still, listening. I feel a strange sense of being abandoned, even though that's not fair. He has a job, responsibilities, a whole debrief process he has to go through. But still, part of me wants him to come check on me, make sure I'm okay. Tell me what happens next. I push the feeling down. Focus on finishing my statement. Answer all of the detective's questions. By the time I'm done and allowed to leave the ballroom, it's almost dawn. The sky outside is that weird gray color before sunrise. I'm exhausted but too wired to sleep. I go home, take a shower, try to process what just happened. But my brain won't settle. I keep seeing the vest, hearing that sharp crack from the disruption device, watching Louise collapse and sob. My phone starts buzzing around 7 in the morning. Text messages from people who weren't at the reunion, asking if I'm okay, sending me links. I click on one. It's a video. Someone filmed Louise making Theo clean up the wine, the whole humiliating scene. Then it cuts to footage of the takedown. Theo in tactical gear taking down the masked men. The contrast is stark. In one clip, he's on his knees being mocked. In the next, he's in complete control, saving everyone. The comments are a mess. People mocking the earlier scene, calling Louise names, praising Theo, making jokes, turning the whole terrifying experience into entertainment. Memes, reaction gifs. I feel anger rise up hot in my chest. This isn't entertainment. People could have died. Theo had to endure humiliation as part of his job. And now everyone's just treating it like content, like a story to share and laugh about. I find myself wanting to protect Theo from all this attention, shield him somehow even though I barely know him, even though he's clearly capable of handling himself. Something about seeing him mocked online after watching him save everyone makes me furious. My work phone rings mid-morning. It's the HR director from my law firm. She sounds concerned, asks about my involvement as a witness, wants to know if I gave statements to police, if my name will be in any reports. She explains there might be conflicts if this case goes to trial, if I'm called as a witness. The firm needs to avoid any appearance of impropriety. She suggests I keep a low profile. Don't discuss details publicly. Don't post about it on social media. The conversation frustrates me. I understand the professional necessity, the ethical requirements, but part of me resents being told to stay quiet, to hide my involvement, like I did something wrong by being there, by helping. I agree because I don't have much choice, but I don't like it. Later that afternoon, I get a call from an unknown number. A woman introduces herself as Annalisa Rinaldi. She's a federal prosecutor. She needs me to sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, to protect an ongoing investigation. She hints that this is bigger than just Louise, that there are other people involved, other operations they're looking into. She can't tell me details, but she needs me to agree not to discuss certain things publicly. I resent the secrecy, want to know what's really going on, but I also respect that there might be legitimate operational reasons for keeping quiet. Good reasons I can't see yet. She emails me the NDA. I read through it carefully. Use my legal training to understand exactly what I'm agreeing to. The terms seem reasonable, specific, not overly broad. I sign it electronically and send it back. Then I sit in my apartment feeling strange and disconnected, like I'm part of something big but also completely in the dark about what that something actually is. Over the next few days, the investigation moves fast. Tyrone calls me in to review some documents they pulled together on Louise. I sit in a small conference room at the police station while he spreads papers across the table. Background checks show gambling debts to 3 different payday loan places. His credit cards are maxed out completely. There are records of him borrowing money from people in the local betting scene. Names I recognize from high school who always had cash and expensive cars for reasons nobody talked about. Looking at all this information makes me feel weird about Louise. I'm still mad about what he did. Still remember him making Theo kneel on the floor. But I also see someone who got buried under money problems and made terrible choices because he felt trapped. It doesn't excuse anything. But it makes him feel less like a pure villain and more like someone who screwed up badly under pressure. Tyrone watches me read through everything and asks if I'm okay. I tell him I am, just processing. He nods like he understands. Meanwhile, another team does a second sweep of the hotel parking structure. They find a maintenance closet near the loading dock that nobody checked the first time. Inside, there's a small box pushed behind cleaning supplies. Wire in different colors. 3 burner phones still in packaging. What look like vest components and battery packs wrapped in plastic. The discovery hits me hard when Tyrone shows me photos. This wasn't just Louise acting crazy on his own. Someone planned this. Supplied him with materials. Had backup equipment ready. I feel a new wave of fear wash over me thinking about what we actually interrupted that night. What might have happened if Theo hadn't been there. If his team hadn't moved so fast. The hotel manager provides security footage from the days before the reunion. Tyrone brings me back to look at specific clips. There's Louise 2 hours before everything started. He's standing near a service entrance talking to someone in a hooded jacket. The person keeps their head down. Their face never turns toward the camera. They hand Louise something small, maybe a phone. The exchange lasts less than a minute. Then the hooded person walks away and disappears around a corner. The video quality is terrible. Too grainy to make out any real details. I watch it 3 times trying to see something useful. Anything that might help identify who that person is. But there's nothing clear. Just shadows and pixelated footage. The frustration builds in my chest. Someone out there supplied Louise with that vest, coached him on what to do. And we have no idea who they are or if they're planning something else. I'm leaving the police station when I hear voices from a side office. The door is partly open. Annalisa and Tyrone are inside having what sounds like an argument. Their voices aren't loud, but the tension is obvious. Annalisa says something about federal terrorism statutes and jurisdiction. Tyrone pushes back, saying this is local criminal activity, and his department should lead. They go back and forth about who has authority. Who should be making decisions? What agency gets to control the investigation? I stand in the hallway listening and realize how messy the legal system actually is. All these different groups trying to work together, but also protecting their own territory. Fighting over who's in charge. Their coordination issues worry me. I want someone clearly running things. Someone making sure we're all safe. Instead, it feels like everyone's pulling in different directions. I head home feeling uneasy. My apartment is on the 3rd floor of an older building. I park in my usual spot and walk up the outside stairs. Inside, I drop my bag and check my phone. There's a text from an unknown number. I open it without thinking. My home address is right there on the screen. The exact street and apartment number. Below that, just 4 words. You talk, you bleed. My hands start shaking so badly I nearly drop the phone. I read the message 3 times. Each time it feels more real, more threatening. Someone knows where I live. Someone is watching, trying to scare me into staying quiet. The ballroom crisis felt scary but also distant somehow, like something happening to a group. This is personal. This is someone targeting me specifically in my own home. My safe space doesn't feel safe anymore. I grab my laptop and forward the text to Tyrone immediately. Then I call him. He answers on the 2nd ring. I try to keep my voice steady while I explain what I just received. He tells me to stay inside, lock everything. He'll send a patrol car right away. 20 minutes later, there's a knock. 2 officers stand outside. They check my locks, walk through my apartment, give me a card with direct numbers to call. Tyrone arranged for patrol cars to drive past regularly. Someone will check on my building every few hours. The response is professional and makes me feel a little better. But that night, I still check my door locks 3 times before bed, test the windows, look out at the parking lot multiple times. Every small sound makes me jump. I barely sleep. The next morning, my phone rings from a number I don't recognize. I almost don't answer. But something makes me pick up. It's Theo. His voice is quiet and careful. He asks how I'm doing, if I'm okay. I tell him about the text, the threat. He's silent for a moment. Then he gives me practical safety advice. Vary my routines. Don't leave or arrive home at the same times every day. Stay aware of my surroundings. Park in different spots. Notice who's around me. The advice is specific and somehow steadying. Like having a plan makes the danger more manageable. But I'm also frustrated he can't tell me more. Can't explain what's really happening or who might be threatening me. I understand he has rules, clearances, things he can't share, but it still bothers me. Later that day, Tyrone calls again. He thinks I should stay somewhere else temporarily. My apartment feels too exposed, too easy for someone to watch. He asks if I have family nearby, friends who could put me up for a while. I think about options. My parents live 3 hours away. Most of my close friends have roommates or small places. Then I remember Grace Hayashi from work. She mentioned once having a spare room after her sister moved out. I call her. Explain some of what's happening without breaking the NDA. She doesn't ask many questions, just tells me to come over whenever I'm ready. I pack a bag on autopilot, grabbing clothes and toiletries, my laptop and chargers, some books I probably won't read. The whole thing feels surreal, like I'm displaced from my own life, but I'm also grateful to have somewhere secure to go. Someone willing to help without making it complicated. Grace's place is in a newer building with security doors and cameras. She shows me the spare room and gives me a key. Tells me to stay as long as I need. That night, I sleep better than I did at my apartment. A few days later, Theo sends another text. He suggests meeting briefly at a public park, somewhere open where we can see anyone approaching. I agree and drive there the next afternoon. When I arrive, he's already there, sitting on a bench in plain clothes, jeans and a jacket, but his eyes are moving constantly, checking all the exits, watching people walk by, noting sightlines and potential problems. Seeing him operate this way hits different from watching the reunion takedown. That was dramatic. Obviously dangerous. This is quiet and constant. The cost of his job written in how he can never fully relax, how he's always scanning, always ready. We sit down and he explains his theory about what's really happening. He thinks this is part of a theft ring. They use fake bomb threats to freeze crowds, create panic and chaos, while everyone's distracted accomplices move through stealing valuables, phones, wallets, jewelry, anything they can grab fast. The explanation makes sense, but also makes everything worse somehow. The reunion humiliation wasn't personal, wasn't about Theo specifically. It was just opportunistic cruelty. They saw a chance to use someone who was already being mocked and took it. That feels both better and worse at the same time. Better because it wasn't targeted. Worse because it means we were all just targets of convenience. Just people in the wrong place who happened to have things worth stealing. Theo shifts on the bench and looks at me directly. He asks if I'd be willing to monitor the alumni group chat for anything suspicious, given my access and legal eye for detail. The request catches me off guard, but something clicks into place. Finally, I have a practical way to help instead of just being scared and waiting for someone else to fix everything. I tell him yes before I've even thought it through completely. But then I pause and set some conditions. I need him to keep me informed about any risks. I won't do anything dangerous without backup. I need to know what I'm looking for and what to do if I find it. Theo nods immediately, and I can see he respects the boundaries. He treats me like a partner, rather than just another witness he needs to protect. That matters more than I expected it would. We exchange secure contact information, and he shows me how to use an encrypted app on my phone. Then he walks me back to my car and waits until I'm inside with the doors locked before heading to his own vehicle. Requested Reds is on Spotify now. Check out link in the description or comments. Back at Grace's apartment, I open my laptop and pull up the alumni group chat. I've been a member for years but rarely check it. Mostly it's people sharing old photos or planning events. I start scrolling back through the message history, looking for anything that seems off. At first there's nothing unusual, just normal reunion planning stuff. But then I notice gaps in the conversation threads, places where it looks like messages were deleted. I click through to some user profiles and check their recent activity. That's when I spot it. Deleted posts between Louise and someone with the username Coach talking about load times and distraction windows. My heart starts pounding as I take screenshots of everything I can see before it disappears further. The messages are vague enough to seem innocent if you weren't looking for something specific. But knowing what happened at the reunion makes the meaning obvious. I spend the next 2 hours digging deeper into the chat's technical side. I managed to recover some cached message previews from my browser history. The metadata shows these conversations happened 2 weeks before the reunion. Someone planned this well in advance. The technical work makes me feel competent and useful in a way that pushes back against the helpless fear. I'm doing something concrete. Something that might actually matter. I compile everything into a folder with timestamps and context notes. My legal training kicks in as I organize the evidence properly. Chain of custody matters even for digital screenshots. I call Tyrone through the official number he gave me and explain what I found. He asks me to send everything through the police department's secure upload portal. I do that first, making sure each file is labeled clearly. Then I use the encrypted app Theo showed me to send copies to a secure drop he set up. Being the bridge between different parts of the investigation feels important. But it also creates this weird tension about who I'm really working for. Am I helping the police or helping Theo's military operation? Are those the same thing? I push the questions aside and focus on making sure everyone who needs this information gets it. 2 days later, Annalisa calls me. She's reviewed the evidence and thinks it's strong enough to pressure Louise into a proffer session. She explains that means he'd meet with prosecutors to share information in exchange for potentially reduced charges. Her strategic thinking impresses me. She's turning my screenshots into actual leverage. She's organizing the chaos into steps that might lead somewhere. I feel grateful someone is taking charge and making things happen instead of just collecting information endlessly. The next development comes faster than I expected. Annalisa and Tyrone work together on a plan for me to respond to Coach in the alumni chat. I'm supposed to act like I'm collecting leftover jewelry on behalf of a classmate who left the reunion early. The cover story makes sense, but I'm scared. Actually terrified if I'm being honest. I insist on written safety protocols before I agree to anything. Tyrone sends me a 2-page document outlining exactly what I should and shouldn't do, where the meeting should happen, how many officers will be nearby, what to do if something goes wrong. Reading through the specific steps helps calm me down. I'm not being thrown into danger blindly. There's a plan. Rakesh meets me at a coffee shop the next afternoon to brief me on personal safety basics. He's calm and matter-of-fact as he explains where to sit in public spaces. Always face the entrance. Keep your back to a wall. Notice who comes in and out. Don't touch anything someone hands you directly. Watch for people who seem too interested in you or who show up in multiple locations. His technical guidance makes the danger feel manageable somehow. Like there are specific actions I can take to stay safe rather than just hoping nothing bad happens. I write everything down in a small notebook I can keep with me. That evening, Theo walks me through a code phrase to abort the meeting if anything feels wrong. If I say the words "coffee tastes burnt," then his team moves in immediately. We practice it a few times until it feels natural. Then he takes me through the coffee shop we've chosen for the meeting, points out all the exits and sight lines, shows me where his people will be positioned, explains what cameras cover which angles. The care he takes with my safety makes something warm spread through my chest. He's not just using me to get information. He actually cares whether I get hurt. The trust between us grows stronger with each practical detail he shares. We settle on a busy coffee shop downtown with good camera coverage and predictable foot traffic. It's the kind of place where two people meeting looks completely normal. Theo walks me through the layout 3 times, shows me the best table to choose, explains what his team will be watching for. I rehearse my cover story twice while he listens and offers suggestions. I need to sound casual about collecting lost items, like it's a favor for a friend rather than anything suspicious. My anxiety hums steadily under the surface, but I push through it. I can do this. I have backup. There's a plan. Everything will be fine. The next morning, I arrive at the coffee shop 30 minutes early. I choose the table Theo showed me, back against the wall, clear view of the entrance and both side exits. I order a regular coffee and sit with my phone out like I'm scrolling through messages. My hands shake slightly, so I keep them wrapped around the warm cup. Theo's voice comes through the small earpiece he gave me last night. He tells me he's in position across the street. 2 more team members are inside pretending to work on laptops. Tyrone is in an unmarked car around the corner. The setup makes me feel safer, but my heart still pounds hard in my chest. At exactly 10 o'clock, a man walks through the door. He's maybe 40 with graying hair at the temples. He wears khaki pants and a blue button-down shirt, business casual like he just came from an office job. He scans the room once, then walks straight to my table with a friendly smile. He sits down across from me without asking. His ease around everything makes my skin crawl. I force my face to stay neutral and friendly. He extends his hand across the table and introduces himself as Brian Lockwood. I shake his hand, even though touching him makes me want to pull away. He asks if I'm collecting items for Sarah from the reunion. I nod and say yes. She left early and asked me to grab anything people found. The lie comes out smoother than I expected. Brian reaches into his jacket pocket and I tense up completely. But he just pulls out a small velvet jewelry box. He slides it across the table toward me. Inside is a diamond bracelet that definitely didn't belong to anyone at our reunion. I pretend to examine it while trying to keep my expression casual. Brian leans back in his chair looking totally relaxed. He mentions casually that the reunion was quite an event. I agree carefully, keeping my responses short. Then he says something that makes my blood run cold. He comments that next time they'll need less noise. The words confirm everything Theo suspected. He's planning more operations, more fake terror attacks, more robberies during the chaos. My anger bubbles up hot and fast in my chest, but I force myself to stay in character. I just nod along like I understand what he means. I ask him what he does for work, trying to sound like I'm making normal conversation. He explains he's a vendor for security contractors. He works with venues and event spaces. The explanation makes perfect sense for how he'd know about upcoming events and security layouts. He starts talking about an upcoming charity gala downtown. Mentions the guest list includes some wealthy donors. Says it might be a good opportunity. I realize he's recruiting me. He thinks I'm interested in being part of their operation. The assumption makes me feel sick, but I keep nodding. I tell him that sounds interesting and ask when it's happening. He's about to answer when Theo's voice comes through my earpiece. He says they're moving in now. I see Theo enter through the front door. Tyrone comes in from the side entrance. 2 other officers I don't recognize block the back exit. Everything happens fast, but without any drama. Theo walks up to our table and shows his badge. He tells Brian he's under arrest. Brian's friendly expression doesn't even flicker. He just sighs and puts his hands on the table. Tyrone cuffs him while reading him his rights. The other customers in the coffee shop stare at us. Some pull out their phones to record, but the whole thing is over in less than 2 minutes. No shouting, no chase, no spectacle, just professional and efficient. I watch them lead Brian toward the door. Relief washes over me so strong I feel dizzy, but I'm also completely exhausted. Too tired for the adrenaline crash I know is coming. I just want this to be over. Theo comes back to the table after Brian is in the car. He asks if I'm okay. I nod but don't trust myself to speak yet. Nah. He sits down across from me and explains what happens next. They'll process Brian at the station, search his phone and any property. I'll need to give another statement. His voice is calm and steady, and it helps me feel more grounded. We leave the coffee shop together 20 minutes later. I give my statement at the police station. Describe exactly what Brian said about next time and less noise. About the charity gala he mentioned. The detective taking my statement writes everything down carefully. Then Tyrone pulls me aside. He shows me photos from Brian's phone on his computer screen. There's a key to a storage unit. a list of upcoming events with dates and locations. Each one is marked with a word that makes my stomach turn. Opportunities. That's what he called them. Opportunities to rob people while they're scared and confused. The systematic planning makes me feel sick. We weren't personal targets. We weren't special. We were just convenient. Just another opportunity on a list. The thought makes everything feel worse somehow. 2 days later, Tyrone calls me with an update. They searched the storage unit using the key from Brian's phone. What they found makes the case solid. Explosive materials that could make more fake vests. 3 completed vests ready to use. Electronic signal blockers. And boxes full of stolen items. Jewelry and phones and watches and wallets. Evidence from multiple previous events. I feel cold satisfaction knowing there's enough here to prosecute successfully. Enough to make sure Brian and his partners go to prison for a long time. The evidence is overwhelming and obvious. Meanwhile, federal prosecutors formally charge Louise. Annalisa calls me to explain the charges. Conspiracy to commit robbery, weapons violations, terrorism-related offenses. The list is long and serious. He's looking at decades in prison if convicted. Part of me wants him held fully responsible for everything. For the terror he caused. For humiliating Theo. For threatening all of us. But another part of me wants the full truth about how this operation worked. About who else was involved. About what they were planning next. Annalisa tells me Louise asked for a lawyer. Then requested something called a proffer session. She explains that means he wants to meet with prosecutors to share information. In exchange, he hopes for reduced charges or a lighter sentence. The news doesn't surprise me. Louise always took the easy way out. Always looked for shortcuts. This is just another version of that same pattern. The proffer session happens 3 days later at the federal building downtown. I'm not allowed to attend, but Annalisa briefs me afterward. She says Louise was cooperative. Detailed. He told them everything. He explained how he got recruited through gambling circles. How his debts kept growing until he couldn't pay. How someone approached him with an offer. Wear the vest to the reunion. Create chaos and fear. In exchange, they'd clear his debts completely. He knew the venue layout from helping plan the reunion. He knew when security would be lightest. He provided inside information that made the whole operation possible. The vest was designed to look real, but wasn't actually dangerous. The plan was for the masked men to rob everyone during the panic. Then Louise would surrender peacefully. Everyone would think they barely survived a terror attack. Nobody would focus on the missing valuables until much later. His testimony is detailed and thorough. He names other members of the operation, provides dates and locations of previous jobs, explains the whole structure of how the group worked. My feelings about him remain complicated and messy. I feel contempt for his choices, for his cruelty toward Theo, for his weakness. But I also feel reluctant pity for how trapped he was by his own bad decisions, for how desperate he must have been. The mix of emotions is uncomfortable and I don't try to sort it out. Over the next 2 weeks, Annalisa works on structuring a cooperation agreement. She explains the terms to me over coffee one afternoon. Reduced prison time. Instead of 30 years, he'd serve 8 to 10. Mandatory payments into a restitution fund for all victims. Required addiction treatment and counseling for his gambling problem. Required testimony against other members of the operation. The deal makes practical sense. His cooperation could prevent future attacks. Could help prosecute more dangerous members of the group. But I'm not entirely happy with it. 8 years feels too light for what he did. For the terror he caused. For how close we came to real disaster. But I also understand this is how the system works. This is practical justice that might actually prevent future incidents. Sometimes you have to accept good enough instead of perfect. The media coverage starts appearing the same week. News articles about the foiled attack at our reunion. About the criminal ring that targeted events across the city. But the coverage is sanitized and vague. They credit a generic interagency response for the successful resolution. They mention local police and federal authorities working together. But they never name Theo specifically. Never mention his role or his unit. Never show his face or use his name. I feel proud of him for what he did. Proud of his skill and his bravery. But I'm also irritated on his behalf that he can't be publicly recognized. That he has to stay anonymous while others take credit. Though I understand why. His work requires secrecy. Operational security matters more than public praise. Still, it seems unfair. Then the online harassment starts. Someone posts the videos from the reunion on social media. The ones showing Louise humiliating Theo. Showing him on his knees cleaning wine. Showing Haley stepping on his hand. The videos spread fast across multiple platforms. Within days, they're everywhere. The comments are brutal and cruel. Some people mock Theo for allowing himself to be humiliated. Others mock Louise for his failed attack. Some make jokes about the whole situation. Turn real terror into entertainment and memes. My own face appears in some of the videos. People start commenting on me too. Calling me names. Making up stories about my relationship with Theo. Sending cruel messages to my social media accounts. I mute and block systematically. Report the worst harassment. Try not to read the comments. But it's hard to ignore completely. The constant notifications make my anxiety spike every time my phone buzzes. My firm's HR director calls me in for a meeting. She's concerned about the online attention, worried it might affect my work or the firm's reputation. She offers support and resources, suggests I might want to talk to someone professional. She provides contact information for a therapist who specializes in trauma. I accept the referral even though part of me resists the idea. I tell myself I'm fine, that I handled everything well, that I don't need help processing what happened. But the truth is I'm not sleeping well. I jump at sudden noises. I check my locks multiple times before bed. I scan every room I enter looking for exits. Maybe talking to someone would help. Maybe admitting I'm struggling isn't weakness. Maybe taking practical steps to deal with this is smarter than suffering in silence. The first text from Theo arrives at 2 a.m. 3 days later. My phone buzzes on the nightstand and I grab it expecting another threat or harassment message. Instead, it's just a simple question asking if I'm sleeping okay. I text back that I'm awake now and he apologizes for the hour, says he just finished a debrief and wanted to check in. We exchange maybe 10 messages about nothing specific before he says he needs to get some rest. The conversation is brief, but somehow steadying. A week passes and he texts again during my lunch break, asking how work is going. I tell him about the reduced caseload and he shares that he's dealing with paperwork himself, the boring part of his job that nobody sees. We fall into a pattern over the next few weeks where he reaches out at random times and we talk about small things that somehow feel important. He tells me about his terrible coffee maker that only works if you hit it twice on the left side. I complain about my neighbor who plays accordion at 6 a.m. every morning. These conversations never last long and we never push for more than the other person offers. The bond between us grows quietly in these small moments, both of us respecting boundaries while getting closer. Tyrone calls me on a Tuesday morning while I'm reviewing case files at Grace's apartment. He sounds satisfied when he tells me they traced the threatening text to a burner phone purchased at a convenience store 2 blocks from Brian's office. Security footage shows someone matching Brian's build buying the phone with cash the day before I received the first threat. The evidence connects him directly to witness intimidation charges on top of everything else. Tyrone says the case is closed and I don't need to worry about more threats. Hearing that makes something tight in my chest finally loosen. I thank him and hang up and sit there for a minute just breathing properly for the first time in weeks. The constant low-level anxiety that's been humming under everything starts to fade. That same afternoon, I'm scrolling social media during a break when I see Haley's post. It's long and vague, talking about how we all make mistakes, and she's learned so much about judging people too quickly. She mentions the reunion incident without any specifics, and says she's sorry to anyone she hurt. The post never names Theo or takes real responsibility for stepping on his hand or the cruel things she said. I screenshot it and send it to Theo with a question mark. He responds an hour later saying he saw it and already blocked her number when she tried to reach out directly. He adds that he doesn't need her validation or apology and has no interest in contact. I'm glad to see him set those clear boundaries because he deserves better than her half-hearted public performance. Annalisa schedules 3 preparation sessions with me over the following 2 weeks. She walks me through potential cross-examination questions, how to handle aggressive defense attorneys, what to expect in a courtroom setting. I take notes and practice my responses until I feel reasonably confident. Then she calls me into her office and says the plea agreements are moving forward faster than expected, and I probably won't need to testify at all. I feel relief wash over me at avoiding trial, but there's also this strange anticlimax after all the preparation. I spent weeks getting ready to face this in court, and now it's just done without that moment. Annalisa seems to understand my mixed reaction, and reminds me that justice doesn't always look dramatic or satisfying, but it still counts. Rakesh emails me an invitation to a victim support debrief session he's running for people affected by similar incidents. I show up at the community center on Saturday morning expecting some kind of therapy circle. Instead, Rakesh has a presentation with practical slides about managing triggers and anxiety. He talks about specific techniques like the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding method, how to create a safety plan, what to do when you feel panic starting. His nuts and bolts approach to trauma recovery feels more helpful than abstract therapy concepts. He gives us printed handouts with concrete tools to use, and I actually feel equipped to handle things rather than just talked at about feelings. I thank him afterward and he nods, saying he's been through his own stuff and knows what actually works versus what sounds nice. 2 weeks after that, Theo suggests meeting for coffee at a quiet shop across town. I agree and show up nervous for reasons I can't quite name. He's already there when I arrive, sitting at a corner table facing the door with clear sightlines to all the exits. We order drinks and sit down and the conversation is sweet and slightly awkward in a good way. He still scans the room periodically and I notice him clock every person who enters. But mostly he focuses on me and we talk about normal things like movies and books and places we want to travel someday. We don't force anything beyond enjoying each other's company. When we leave, he walks me to my car and says he'd like to do this again if I'm interested. I tell him yes. The plea agreements finalize the first week of the next month. Annalisa sends me a summary of the terms. Multiple ring members plead guilty to federal felonies including conspiracy, weapons charges, and fraud. Brian loses his security license permanently and gets 8 years with no parole eligibility. A restitution fund gets established for victims to cover therapy costs and other expenses. I read through everything twice and feel satisfaction without triumphalism. Justice was served even if it wasn't perfect or dramatic. The system worked the way it's supposed to work, grinding through evidence and procedure until reaching appropriate consequences. Luis accepts a reduced 5-year sentence with mandated addiction treatment and ongoing cooperation obligations. His testimony helped prosecute the bigger players in the operation. My feelings about him remain complicated. I'm angry about what he did and how he treated Theo. But I also understand he got trapped by circumstances and bad choices and desperation. 5 years with treatment is better than him rotting in prison for decades without help. I hope he actually uses the treatment to get better. 3 months after the reunion, my law firm's managing partner calls me in for a review meeting. She says the reduced caseload arrangement has worked well, but they'd like me back at full capacity if I'm ready. I negotiate reasonable boundaries about case types and work hours before agreeing. No criminal cases involving bombs or weapons. No more than 50 billable hours per week. She accepts my terms without argument. My confidence returns gradually as I prove to myself I can still do the job well. The first week back at full caseload feels overwhelming but manageable. The Alumni Association sends an email announcement about a fund they've established to help with medical costs and therapy for anyone affected by the incident. They're soliciting donations and volunteer support. I read through the details and decide to donate anonymously rather than making it public. I transfer a significant amount from my savings and don't tell anyone about it. I prefer quiet contribution over grand gestures or public recognition. Helping feels better when it's just about helping, rather than being seen as helpful. A week later, Theo calls and asks if we can meet for lunch. I agree, and we pick a quiet restaurant near my office. He shows up in civilian clothes and sits across from me with that same careful awareness of his surroundings. We order food and talk about normal things for a while before he clears his throat. He tells me he's being rotated to a new assignment out of state. The news hits me harder than I expect, but I keep my face neutral. He says he wants to keep in touch if I'm open to it. I appreciate that he's honest about his limitations, rather than making promises he can't keep. He explains the rotation is standard for his position, and he'll be gone at least 2 years. I tell him yes, I'd like to stay in touch. We finish lunch and he walks me back to my office building. Before I go inside, he gives me his personal email address written on a business card. That weekend, I pull out the box of reunion stuff I'd saved in my closet. I sort through programs and name tags and photos people posted in the alumni group. The flower Theo placed in my hair is pressed flat and dried out, but still recognizable. I tuck it carefully into one of my law textbooks as a bookmark. The gesture feels like gentle closure without pretending the experience didn't matter or hurt. I pack the rest of the memorabilia back into the box and slide it onto a high shelf. 3 days later, Annalisa sends me a follow-up email with official case closure documentation attached. She confirms that restitution checks are being processed and should arrive within 6 weeks. Victim services remain available through the federal program if I need additional support. The case is officially closed with all plea agreements finalized and sentences begun. I read through the email twice and feel relief wash over me. There are still lingering edges of anxiety when I think about everything that happened, but mostly I'm ready to move forward with my life. I save the email in a dedicated folder and close my laptop. 2 months pass with occasional emails between Theo and me. Nothing heavy or intense, just updates about work and random thoughts about movies or books. Then one Tuesday morning, I wake up to a text from an unknown number. It's a photo of a city skyline I don't recognize with tall buildings against a blue sky. The message below says just 4 words. Coffee when I'm back? I stare at the screen for a minute before typing my response. Yes. Slow is fine. I hit send and set my phone down. The exchange feels like cautious optimism grounded in reality, opening the door to something that might develop naturally over time without pressure or expectations. Well, that's the grand finale no one was waiting for. If you made it all the way through, you clearly have the patience of a saint. You might as well subscribe since you've already suffered this long. See you in the next disaster.